Hello, two-thirds of the way into this year-long, week-by-week thing, and 2006, one of the slimmest years in the noughties so far. Lots of okay and not so much great, so I'll only be talking about 2 records this year. There are a few of those okays scrolling past for your perusal over here, but the rest of this series should be much tighter, more focused, and a little easier for me to put together. 06 is a bit of a nondescript year in personal terms, one of those in-between years sandwiched between the big life changes. The only notable event I can dig up is a gig that would constitute by far the longest distance that me and my wife had ever travelled to see a specific band. And that band was the Sugar Cubes, their reunion show in Reykjavik, Iceland in November of that year, marking the 20th anniversary of their single Birthday and a one-off show to raise money for the Icelandic record label Bad Taste, which had originally put out that record. To this date, it is the one and only Sugar Cubes reunion, so worth attending, definitely. They were fantastic. The atmosphere was euphoric, a real hometown celebration gig, and we got a weekend away in Iceland too, a quite beautiful country. But music, 2006, and what was maybe the height of the noughties post-punk revival. Instead, though, I am going back to the well to highlight albums from a pair of first-wave post-punk survivors. Coming in just behind this year's favourite, some Manchester legends, or should that be legend singular? Because this band will forever be considered the vehicle for one man and his unmistakable guitar playing and wispy, delicate vocals. Yeah, this is Keep Breathing by the Obliterati column. That man being VINI REILLY, the first musician signed to Factory Records, a contributor to both the very first and the final releases on the label, and a man who hit a purple patch in the new millennium. 8 studio albums, a handful of live recordings and rarity collections, a creative streak that was only cut short by a series of strokes that he suffered in 2010, limiting his ability to play to his own very exacting standards. I think this record has a very good show as Vinny's last truly great album, although his final record, that's 2010's A Paean to Wilson, a heartfelt tribute to the late Tony Wilson, might well run it close for some. Keep Breathing is as complete a Obliterati column album as you could hope for at nearly 30 years into Vinny's recording career, with a walk down every avenue that he ever explored. There's the straight-up Spanish guitar masterclass of Lunch, the pathos and pleading of the wonderful Big Hole, and the magical repurposing of a vocal sample from Lynn Collins' Think About It in Let Me Tell You Something. And there are stunning guitar pyrotechnics on here too. The tangled shredding towards the conclusion of opener Nina is pure face-melting Jeff Beck style expressiveness and freeform exploration. But for me, it's the quietly destructive moments on Keep Breathing that are the real heart stoppers. The waves of punctured recollections in Helen, and most of all in the desolation of Gun. Vinny's long-term battles with depression, PTSD, various mental health issues, fueling a crushing lyric, foregrounding the gun of the title. It is very strong stuff indeed, rendered even more powerful by the almost overpowering beauty of the melodies he uses to decorate such pitch black urges. I talked about some of the very earliest Obliterati albums a good while back now. Keep Breathing is evidence that Vinny still had it. It still has it. Just a marvellous late career record from one of post-punk's most distinctive musical voices. And probably the only reason it's not my selection for 2006 is because these next guys pulled off one of music's most unexpected and most accomplished comebacks of all time. Seriously, how many bands do you know who could take a 20-year sabbatical and manage to back that up by releasing the best album they'd ever made? Yeah, men on a mission in more ways than one. This is Mission of Burma and the Obliterati. If you followed this series of videos over the last month or so, you may well remember that Burma absolutely floored me at the Shellac curated ATP festival in 2002. Well, that initial reformation and run of dates led to the release of their comeback special album of 2004, the Meta, well, descriptively anyway, titled On, Off, On, a fine album which showed that A, they still sounded absolutely on point, 100% Burma, no compromise, and B, that all three members had retained, improved even, on their individual songwriting and performing styles. If you played a new listener Versus and On, Off, On back to back, there would be absolutely nothing to suggest that huge gap between their conception and their creation. Okay, so far so good. Old band gets back together, plays some dates to soak up the long overdue kudos they were owed, knock out a new album, job done, back to the day jobs, nice seeing you. And enter the Obliterati 2 years later, and no, this is no run-of-the-mill nostalgia grab. In fact, where the hell did this come from? Lacerating intensity, the MOB blueprint blown up to widescreen proportions, every element magnified and improved. Roger Miller's raging schizoid guitar and prog turnabouts, Clint Conley's chunky galloping bass and vocal fluidity, Peter Prescott's crashing, splashing, clattering intensity and signature holler. Blame Bob maybe because as well as taking on the Martin Swope tape manipulation role for live shows, he'd played in Prescott's post-Burma outfit Volcano Suns, Bob Weston, latterly of Shellac, engineered the Obliterati, and his capturing of the band is sublime. Big, present, clear, a full range cohesiveness with detail and heft. It sounds fantastic. But it's those three voices, three writers combining that's key to the success of this band, of this record. Tracks, well, there are 6 from Roger, 5 from Clint, 3 from Pete. You know, this is no Bob versus Grant type deal. There are great songs coming in from all directions. The Morse code guitar and blurring boundaries and tape loop manipulation of Prescott's Let Yourself Go. The elbows out needling of Miller's Spider's Web, mixing crushing fuzz guitar and falsetto sweetness simultaneously. The snarling, pummeling opening of Conley's opener to Weiss, sneakily sliding in a plaintive sweet vocal and a head-spinning Beatlesy midsection. Yet Burma were always the post-punk group most isolated, stylistically speaking, by the early American hardcore sound. But their willingness to drop in a proggy solo, a killer vocal line, heck, even a disco bass line, aligned them, I think, far more with the UK post-punk sound. Or maybe even the art rock progenitors of the early 70s, or the pre-punk groups like the Stooges. One of those nods bubbles right up to the surface in the lyrics of possibly the album's best track, the closer, Nancy Reagan's Head. Clint Conley sings, and Roxy Music came to save the world, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. That coming alongside the song's incredible payoff line of, I'm haunted by the freakish size of Nancy Reagan's head. No way that thing came with that body. Yeah, seriously, this is a song so good you could write a dissertation about it. But for me, it's the shadow of maybe 90% of all the alt and indie rock of the 80s and 90s. It loops back over the band time and again, like some kind of time traveler's paradox in musical form. There's the buzzing sonic youth dissonance of good not great, the glowering all apologies dread of 13. And hey, dance punk kids too, check out Donna Sumeria for some gobsmacking I Feel Love steals. And there are faint outlines of Mould, of Barlow, of Maskis, visible across the entire fabric of this fabulous record. Yeah, post-punk revival, be damned, you're too late. Burma were there first, and in 2006 they came back to conclude their business. Who could have seen that one coming? Okay, tight call this year. Both of those records I love, but something about the way that Mission of Burma album dropped out of nowhere, it just means I have to give it the nod. As ever, we can talk about this down below with your suggestions for 2006 and maybe your thoughts on my choices. As ever, you got this far in, so, finish the job. Give me a thumbs up. Why not? And, if you're not yet subscribed, think about that too. But I will leave it there. Please do take care, and I hope to see you back here on the channel again very, very soon. Bye for now.